What Aprilia showed Ducati at the French MotoGP truly felt like a brutal and painful slap in the face. Just when everyone believed Ducati was still the most dominant bike on the grid, Aprilia arrived with savage performance, smart strategy, and incredible speed that left the red garage looking completely out of answers. The pressure Aprilia applied this time no longer looked like an ordinary threat, but rather a clear signal that Ducati's era of dominance is starting to be seriously shaken. If this situation continues, does Ducati still deserve to be called the strongest team in MotoGP right now? Let's discuss. The spotlight before the race began was mainly focused on Francesco Bagnaia. The Ducati Lenovo rider delivered an outstanding performance throughout the weekend and successfully secured pole position with a highly impressive lap time. Many believed Pecco would once again control the race the way he often has over the past few seasons. However, the grid situation changed dramatically after Marc Marquez was officially ruled out due to injury. The second starting position was eventually taken by Marco Bezzecchi, while Fabio Di Giannantonio secured third place with the VR46 team. Marc's absence made the race feel far more open than expected. Ducati was still considered to have the best bike at Le Mans, but Aprilia's development was beginning to look increasingly worrying for its rivals. Over the last few rounds, the RSGP had shown major improvements, especially in cornering stability and acceleration out of turns. While most attention remained on Ducati, Jorge Martín quietly started to emerge as a serious threat. Even though he started from a less favoured position, the Spanish rider displayed extremely consistent race pace from practice sessions all the way to the sprint race. When the starting lights finally went out, Marco Bezzecchi immediately created a huge surprise. The Aprilia rider launched a perfect start and instantly charged into the lead, entering the first corner. The grandstands erupted as fans witnessed Bezzecchi boldly snatch the race lead away from Bagnaia. Within the opening laps, Bezzecchi even started building a gap over the chasing pack. The RSGP looked incredibly stable in his hands, especially through the fast sectors that had previously been considered one of Aprilia's weaknesses. On the other hand, Francesco Bagnaia endured a difficult start to the race. Despite beginning from pole position, Pecco struggled to maintain his rhythm from the very first lap. Pressure from the riders behind forced him to run wide several times and lose the ideal racing line. Fabio Di Giannantonio continued to shadow him closely, while Jorge Martín gradually climbed through the field one position at a time with highly controlled aggression. At the front, Marco Bezzecchi looked like a rider operating at the absolute peak of his abilities. His lap times remained consistently strong, and he appeared extremely confident leading the race for Aprilia. The combination of powerful acceleration and excellent cornering stability made the RSGP look genuinely competitive at Le Mans. Many observers started realizing that Aprilia was no longer just an ordinary challenger. As the race entered its middle stages, Jorge Martín's threat became very real. The Spanish rider looked extremely aggressive, while still remaining calm during overtakes. One by one, the riders ahead of him were passed with clean and highly precise maneuvers. Martín appeared far more comfortable with the characteristics of the Aprilia compared to the beginning of the season. His aggressive riding style now seemed perfectly synchronized with the RSGP. Meanwhile, enormous pressure began haunting Francesco Bagnaia. The world champion appeared to push harder and harder in an attempt to reclaim the lead. However, that effort suddenly turned into a major disaster for the Ducati Lenovo team. While trying to brake aggressively into one of the corners, the front of his bike lost grip and Pecco suffered a shocking crash. The incident instantly silenced the Ducati paddock. Fans could hardly believe what they had just seen as their star rider crashed while desperately trying to close the gap. Bagnaia looked extremely frustrated as he walked away from the gravel trap, shaking his head. Ducati's golden opportunity to secure victory at Le Mans disappeared in an instant. Bagnaia's crash became the turning point of the race. Jorge Martín immediately took full advantage of the moment. The Aprilia rider began setting fastest lap after fastest lap while consistently closing the gap to Marco Bezzecchi. Bezzecchi's lead, which had previously looked comfortable, slowly started to come under threat. The battle between the two Aprilia riders finally exploded in the second half of the race. Martín stayed glued to Bezzecchi's rear wheel, searching for every possible opening to attack. Through several high-speed corners, Martin appeared to have a clear stability advantage, allowing him to exit corners with much stronger acceleration. The decisive moment finally arrived when Jorge Martin pulled off a bold move under heavy braking. With incredible precision, he successfully overtook Marco Bezzecchi and immediately took control of the race lead. The crowd in the grandstands erupted as they witnessed the spectacular maneuver. Once out front, Martin delivered a flawless performance. He maintained perfect focus and gave his rivals absolutely no opportunity to close the gap. The RSGP looked incredibly stable in his hands, especially through the long corners and acceleration zones. Lap after lap, his advantage continued to grow. Marco Bezzecchi still tried to keep his hopes of victory alive, but Jorge Martin's pace was simply too strong. The Spanish rider looked like he was operating on a completely different level during the closing stages of the race. His lap times remained remarkably consistent, and he made almost no mistakes as the checkered flag drew closer. Behind them, the battle for the podium was also intense. Fabio Di Giannantonio continued fighting to defend his position from pressure coming from other rivals. However, the spotlight remained firmly on Aprilia's dominance, which truly shocked many people at Le Mans. When the checkered flag was finally waved, Jorge Martin crossed the finish line in first place and secured a sensational victory for Aprilia at the 2026 French MotoGP. The entire Aprilia crew on the pit wall immediately erupted in celebration. The mechanics embraced each other as they celebrated a massive result they had been waiting for a very long time. Marco Bezzecchi, who finished right behind Martin, also received a warm reception from the team. Even though he failed to hold on to the win, his performance was still considered extraordinary because he had been one of the fastest riders from the very beginning and led the race for a significant amount of time. This 1-2 finish became undeniable proof that Aprilia is now truly ready to challenge Ducati's dominance. The cameras then turned towards Massimo Rivola. The Aprilia boss appeared highly emotional as he watched his team dominate the main race at Le Mans. In his post-race interview, Rivola admitted he was extremely proud of Jorge Martin and Marco Bezzecchi. He described the victory as the result of years of hard work developing the RSGP. For Jorge Martin himself, the win felt incredibly special. After facing heavy criticism and pressure throughout the season, he finally answered all the doubts with an outstanding performance. Martin didn't just win. He won in dominant fashion after starting the race from a position where he was not considered one of the main favourites. Could Aprilia's dominant victory at Le Mans be the first sign that Ducati's era of dominance in MotoGP is starting to come to an end? And in your opinion, who is the biggest threat to Ducati this season? Jorge Martin or Marco Bezzecchi? Share your thoughts in the comments below.